Today on The Report, we discuss the nationwide hands-off protests.
Trump extends TikTok's ban deadline.
Plus, the resurrection of the extinct dire wolf. The report starts now.
Welcome back to another episode of The Report. I'm Mariana Hartman.
I'm Allison Goyich.
And I'm Juliana White. Don't forget to follow our Titan TV Instagram at Titan TV CSUF to keep in touch with us and view our latest content.
On April 5th, over 1,000 protests erupted across the United States. What were the protests advocating for? They demanded President Donald Trump and Elon Musk to take their hands off democracy, education, immigrants, and more. The protests aim to call out and resist the federal policy changes since Trump and his administration have taken office in January. Protest organizers wrote, quote, "This administration is targeting everybody who isn't a part of the 1%. Veterans, kids, seniors, farmers, immigrants, transgender people, and political opponents, all to consolidate power and reward their allies," end quote. Signs with messages like "dictator or democracy, that's the choice," and "hands off democracy" were held high in crowded areas such as federal buildings, parks, city halls, and state capitals. Many diverse groups attended, such as labor unions, civil rights organizations, veterans, and LGBTQ+ advocates. The national hands-off protest also garnered support abroad in cities like Berlin, Paris, and London, with nearly 600,000 people signed up to participate in the civil movement. The protesters have made 3 demands, beginning with, quote, "an end to the billionaire takeover and rampant corruption of the Trump administration, an end to slashing federal funds for Medicaid, Social Security, and other programs working people rely on, and an end to the attacks on immigrants, transgender people, and other communities," end quote. So I personally saw a few videos of myself when this protest was happening, and I was seeing these protests happen, not only in like as close as Huntington Beach, which I thought was crazy to see. You usually don't see protests like that happening at Huntington Beach, but also just in so many unexpected states that you wouldn't think would necessarily advocate for issues like that because they lean on one side politically compared to the other states. But it seems like hundreds of thousands of people of all different ages and identities all came together for this. And I personally can't remember a time where I've ever seen a protest this on this scale with this many issues people are advocating for. I think the last time I saw a big protest like this was when Roe v. Wade was taken away, and there was abortion rights protests, but that was solely on one issue, where this is just a bunch of issues. So it's definitely very baffling. It depends on the way you view it. Some people may see it as like heartwarming, which it definitely is, communities coming together, but it's also a bit sad because, it's never a fun time to have a protest.
Yeah, I think what was crazy seeing in Washington, D.C., they estimated about 100,000 people alone just there, which seeing the crowds, like watching any people's like lives, it was crazy. And I'm glad that people are going out and speaking out for these issues, but like you said, it is sad that people do have to come out to these protests. And at the same time, it feels like not much is changing with the administration, despite people being so loud and wanting change.
Yeah, and the really interesting part about all these protests is that it's happening everywhere. It's not just in big cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles, DC. It's in small places. I've seen protests happen here right outside of Fullerton and Brea, and in small communities up in the Bay Area. It's happening everywhere, and the amount of people who are protesting for change in our government is astronomical.
Mm-hmm. I know. I was very, very shocked to see just not even just the nationwide support that it got, but also the global support, from all these other big cities and all these other different countries and capitals like Paris, London. I mean, that was just crazy. I think it's already a lot when so many people advocate in one country solely, but when you have all these other countries involved as well, that's definitely when the issue becomes way more pressing.
Yeah, 100%. And with all of these tariffs, if these other countries feel like they're being attacked by the United States. So I understand why these countries are kind of chiming in and saying, hands off of the government, like, let's have this as a democracy and not a dictatorship.
Yeah.
Well, President Donald Trump announced TikTok has 75 more days to avoid a U.S. ban over national security concerns. Trump is delaying the deadline for ByteDance, the Chinese parent company, to sell the app to U.S. TikTok investors. A flurry of bidders seek to purchase the app from Reddit, co-founder Alexis Ohanian, to e-commerce giant Amazon. The app, which has 170 million U.S. users, briefly shut down before Trump's inauguration, but restored online service after the president assured he would negotiate a deal to save TikTok. Vice President J.D. Vance, who led the negotiations alongside Michael Waltz, told Fox and Friends before the April 5th deadline, quote, "I think we're in a good place. We need a couple of days to finalize things, and of course we're going to let the president announce whatever we ultimately decide," end quote. But that deal hit a wall as sweeping tariffs on China made Beijing pull back support. Trump called the tariffs the most powerful economic tool and hinted the TikTok deal may now be tied to broader trade talks. In a Truth Social post, Trump said that the administration hopes to, quote, "continue working in good faith with China, who I understand are not very happy about our reciprocal tariffs," end quote. ByteDance says it is still in talks with the U.S., but any deal needs China's approval for now. TikTok stays live, but the countdown is on. So what do you ladies think about this TikTok ban? I know we've kind of seen this happen a few times in the past, and President Trump at the beginning of his term saved TikTok, but really that was just an extension, and now there's another one. So what do we think about this?
As an avid TikTok user myself, I will be disappointed if it leaves, I cannot lie. And I think I'm voicing the opinion of not only so many other Gen Zers, but just so many people in general who utilize the app, people of all ages and backgrounds, and basically you see everyone on TikTok nowadays. Like 170 million people who use the app, like that's a very, very large number. And I think President Trump knows that, and he is aware of that. And I think he knows right now he is under a lot of fire, as seen from the protests under his administration. There's not a lot of people rooting for him right now. And I think he knows that if he bans something as vital right now as TikTok, it's going to be way more pressing and people are going to be way more against him, especially Gen Z supporters. So I think that's kind of also, again, tariffs are coming into play here, and that's a whole other issue. But looking at it solely as just banning the app and gaining support for his administration, I think, that's definitely the call he's trying to make right now.
I think the ban we've gone back and forth so many times. Will it, won't it? It's very complicated. But also at the same time, I feel bad for all the small business owners on TikTok, because right now they're being hit with tariffs, and a lot of them are having to shut down their shops because of tariffs. Mm-hmm. But then also, if TikTok goes away, then they lose a whole other source of where they can sell products and make income. So either way, it's going to affect a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yes, I totally agree. And I'm also an avid TikTok user, but I kind of doom scroll sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I get into that mode, and I think that the only bright side of TikTok, kind of ending, which has happened before with other popular apps like Vine, mm-hmm. It might be better for our mental health. So we're just gonna have to kind of wait it out and see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure people will adapt, but it's just a little scary sometimes when a lot of people have their whole livelihood on there, and
totally.
Then it's constantly being threatened to be taken away.
Definitely.
So hopefully they come to a conclusion soon.
Yeah.
A breakthrough in modern science has just been announced at a small bioscience firm outside of Dallas, Texas. A prehistoric predator estimated extinct for the past 10,000 years has been brought back to life through the triumphs of genetic engineering. Or has it? Known for their iconic role in the HBO series Game of Thrones, the dire wolves once called the mountainous region of North America home for some 100,000 years BC, until a steady rise in hunting competition and the introduction of early humans drove this apex predator to extinction. Now, thanks to the genetic efforts at Colossal Biosciences, Incorporated, the dire wolf has seemingly returned and is making adorable headlines across social media, with Colossal uploading several videos on their YouTube channel featuring the wolf pup's first howls. However, critics in the science community disagree with Colossal's assessment that this new wolf breed are in fact dire wolves. Director of the Australian Centre for Ancient DNA, Dr. Jeremy Austin, insists these genetic hybrids are, quote, not dire wolves under any definition of the specifics ever, end quote. Pointing to the surprising lack of genetic alterations to the gray wolf genome utilized in their creation despite recognized differences to both species, numbering in the thousands. Regardless, Colossal has announced future plans to continue its de-extinction efforts on other prehistoric species, including the dodo bird and the woolly mammoth. So I just want to say one thing before we start the banter on this. I do think that their names are adorable. The wolves' names are Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi, after Game of Thrones, but Romulus and Remus are the founders of Rome. Mm-hmm. But what do you guys think about the whole de-extinction process that they're doing, and also talks about bringing back dodo birds or even like the woolly mammoth?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with that doctor who said that the definition of these dire wolves doesn't really fall within their DNA. So I kind of wonder how they define de-extinction of the dire wolves if the DNA is not 100% or 99.9% the same as the dire wolves that came before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting. I mean, I am all for like seeing a woolly mammoth or a dodo bird, right? But I think, again, unfortunately, these species are extinct for a reason. I don't think our habitats right now are livable for them anymore. You know, just that's just how just science and stuff and biology works in general. But I just wonder, like, what makes them choose certain species to actually bring back from, you know, like extinction? I mean, is it on a scale of like, oh, this is like popular in pop culture right now, like Game of Thrones? Like, are they bringing it back for that specific reason? Are they bringing it for other reasons to help with different environments and ecosystems? Are they just doing it because it's just cool? Because I don't know. I mean, I feel like when I think of woolly mammoth or a dodo bird, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I remember learning about them when I was a kid, but that's the only reason why I think about them and why it'd be cool for them to come back. But I don't really know if there's like more of a scientific explanation for it and the reasoning why they're doing it, except maybe they just want to prove they're able to do it.
Yeah, I know some scientists have talked in like some other places where an animal has gone extinct because of human interactions or just interventions and whatnot, and they want to try to bring stuff back to help the environment again, but I don't really know if that's the case for the dire wolf, especially a woolly mammoth. If they were to bring that back, it would be interesting to see the ecological effects that it would have.
I definitely agree, yeah. And with that, that's all we have for today.
And stay tuned for more news, views, and info.
We'll see you next time on The Report.